All right, Wes. It's been one of those days. I had topics we could have covered today, but I'm not in the mood. And instead, I want to talk about things that I hate. Kind of like how I hate Nicolas Cage. So, what you got?
Have you ever been so sure about a person, like you don't know them because they're famous, they're a celebrity, but you're 100% sure that this person is a piece of shit? But you can't convince anybody because they're famous or they're attractive, and people don't want to admit that the people that they idolize are crappy people. But you know that they are.
Yeah.
And then something happens and it justifies all of your instincts.
Kind of like James Franco.
I was thinking more like Adam Levine.
I mean, yeah, that guy sucks. Tell me more.
Well, apparently he's a no good, cheating piece of shit.
Not a surprise.
Well, it's definitely not a surprise to me. I look at a guy like Adam Levine. Man, he looks like a walking hard-on. I'm not even hating on the guy, man.
Dude, his tattoos looks like he's getting brands tagged on him, man. He looks like a fucking graffiti wall.
If you date a guy like Adam Levine and he cheats on you, it's not a shock. I'm not going to say it's your fault because guys can be smooth. I mean, he's Adam Levine. He's a good-looking guy, popular guy, very attractive, But I can just, people have that look on their face, that shit-eating grin. You know what I'm saying?
Again, like James Franco?
Like James Franco. And Adam Levine carries that look on his face very well. And the reason why is because that's exactly who he is.
Because he's a douchebag.
Man, I've heard rumors and I've seen complaints that fans have made where they wanted to get a picture with him, like a selfie, and he would refuse because, as he put it, he only takes selfies with attractive women.
Yes, and I have heard that. And that's the kind of thing when you hear, you automatically just know this guy's a douchebag.
Right. And right now, his old lady is standing by his side, but I would too. He's Adam Levine.
I mean, he is rich.
And they haven't proven anything. Allegations were made. Whether these allegations are proven or not, Adam Levine is a piece of shit. And you could join me on this side of the line or not.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm definitely on your side of the line on this. I just remember when he played the halftime at the Super Bowl a few years back, and he does the whole thing shirtless. And again, I always come back, when I think of him, I think of his idiot tattoos. Now look, I have some tattoos, you have some tattoos. Like, tattoos can be cool, or they can be stupid.
Well, I didn't walk into the tattoo parlor and say, hey, douche me up, like he so clearly did.
I mean, honestly, what it looks like to me, the randomness of the bullshit tattooed on him, it's almost like he's a walking cast. Like when you get your arm broke as a kid and everybody signs it and it's all haphazard and everybody does it in their own little way. And at the end, right before you get taken off, it looks stupid because of all the stuff that's on it. Somebody drew a dick on it when you weren't looking.
It's like what you're always talking about the Italian Job. Mm-hmm. How Ed Norton's character at the end of the movie, he bought all the shit that everybody else wants.
Right.
Adam Levine's tattoos looks like the catalog from a tattoo parlor, and these are your fucking choices.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to Adam Levine and point to his ribcage, like, yeah, that's the one I want.
This is the sparrow I want right here, bro.
That's great, because that sums up Adam Levine.
Exactly.
He's a talentless hack.
But at least he's got a lot of expensive tattoos. Well, tell me about something you hate.
All right, I'm about to piss some people off right here. But I'm going to tell you who I think sucks. Tim Burton. A lot of people love Tim Burton and Tim Burton movies.
You're crossing some lines.
I know it, and I don't take it back because I do not like Tim Burton. Now look, I don't know the man, so I can't say that I hate him.
You don't like his movies.
I hate his body of work, and for a multitude of reasons. Over the years, they've just sort of built and built and built. I grew up with Edward Scissorhands and the first couple of Batman movies. And no knock on those movies. But also, if you go back and look at it, you see those Batman movies are hokey as shit. I mean, at the time, that's all you were going to get for a Batman movie, and he did a good job at it. And this is no knock on anybody, because Michael Keaton's great, Jack Nicholson's great, Michelle Pfeiffer's pretty solid. Thanks to Kevin Smith, there was a quote in The Evening with Kevin Smith where he's talking about he had a friend of his who published an article as a joke saying that Tim Burton stole some of his material, and it was from his comic book. And Tim Burton came back with, I didn't steal your material. I wouldn't read a comic book. And he does a long pause and he's all like, well, that explains Batman. And to me, that's indicative of the kind of guy Tim Burton is. Like, he doesn't really care about your source material. Ultimately, most of it's hot garbage.
I'm not going to sit here and defend Dark Shadows. Personally, I think that is Tim Burton's worst movie. Corpse Bride's not great, but I love Beetlejuice and I love Batman. I love Mars Attacks. I love Ed Wood. I mean, other than like a handful of movies, I like Tim Burton's work.
Well, and you're probably more in the majority.
Probably.
Than the minority on that one. So, I unfortunately saw Corpse Bride in the theater.
Okay.
I was at the theater with my ex-wife and a female friend of ours. And this female friend of ours had Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas tattooed on her back, so she was clearly a Tim Burton fan.
Sure.
And when we went to the theater, there was a movie I wanted to see, and they outvoted me, so we saw Corpse Bride. And these two, who were both excited about seeing it, and we left the theater, and they were almost as pissed as I was that we just sat through that piece of shit.
I'm talking about Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
I probably knew more about them 20 years ago than I know now.
Oh, no, I'm not necessarily commenting on them as people per se.
They come across as pompous and arrogant.
You know, there are countless stories about them stealing people's material. There's a episode of South Park that's loosely based on Inception. And the entire episode was stolen from another creator off of the internet. The Vine, the what in the butt guy, they stole that too.
But anybody that has a long-running syndicated show is going to steal some material.
Simpsons did it. I mean, they even talk about that on their own show.
Yeah, Simpsons did it.
But when you just when you just steal like a Carlos Mencia or an Amy Schumer.
I think for them it's less of the stealing as just a social commentary of what's around.
After I watched the Family Guy episode of South Park, and bear in mind,
that's the Simpsons did it episode.
Right, and I'm not sitting here saying that South Park and Family Guy, one's better than the other. I'm not defending Family Guy or anything like that. But come on, man, they're the same brand of humor. And for you to get so offended that people compared your show to that one, to where you had to make a 2-part episode saying, fuck these guys, we're better, man, that's some petty shit. That episode is indicative of how Trey Parker and Matt Stone are as fucking people.
You know what's funny about that, though? Because of the type of show South Park is, and the things they've covered and how they've covered them over the years, I kind of expect them to be petty. That's who they are. They've made a career off of that.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone are douchebags. They've always been douchebags. That doesn't mean I have to like it.
So yeah, like James Franco. I keep dropping his name. If you haven't figured it out yet, I don't like James Franco. We're not going to get into it. But yeah, I always knew he was a douchebag.
You know what's great, though, about James Franco being a douchebag?
Like, it's just what I've always thought.
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
What about it?
He was able to take the fact that he is a douchebag and channel it into Harry Osborn. I mean, you were supposed to hate Harry Osborn, right? So they cast a guy like Franco that you don't care for. So before he even
I didn't even know who he was then.
But before he even opens his mouth, you already don't like this guy.
Who else do you hate?
So in my so-called opinion, Jared Leto sucks. I really didn't give much thought about Jared Leto one way or the other until I watched Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You talk about a movie that you saw the trailer of that you got super excited about, and then you saw the movie and it was a cold pile of shit on the floor right beside you.
I don't know what he was really thinking with that, because everybody says he's a serious method actor, but it was almost like he was trying to separate himself from Heath Ledger because obviously
That's
he's
exactly what he was trying to do.
and he's like, okay, I have to do this way different. Unfortunately, he overcompensated.
Look, I'm not trying to oversimplify the role of the Joker. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an actor and that I could walk on set and become the Joker. But you would think with as many people that have played the Joker in a particular way, i.e. Mark Hamill, it would have been easy to play the Joker in a movie. Right?
For somebody who's an established actor, the Joker all the way back to Cesar Romero,
Yes.
and Jack Nicholson,
Absolutely.
and Heath Ledger and Mark Hamill, they all did it their own way, but yet they all are at the core of what makes the Joker the Joker.
Even the Monaghan kid from Gotham, he wasn't bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. But look, we gave this kid talking about Leto now a shot to be the Joker, and he tanked. Right?
Yeah, it was rough.
Okay, so then Morbius gets announced, and I'm like, well, here we go. He's clearly not gonna fuck that up.
Yeah, he's gonna redeem his comic book character status.
Absolutely. And then I get to the theater, and it's Morbin time.
For me, I think of certain things with Jared Leto. He's really good in Dallas Buyers Club, and he overdid that part too, but it worked for that character.
I think the fact of the matter is Jared Leto is just an over-the-top actor, and he always has been. He just was never on my radar until he started making movies that I would actually watch.
You know what I've just realized?
What's that?
Because of what you just said, he's the new Nicolas Cage.
Sorry, Leto.
I mean, but seriously, Nicolas Cage, his whole thing, he's just over the top everything.
Everything.
Back in the day, he got an Oscar. And he was a serious actor. And then it's like he started losing his mind with his fame. And he became, his on-screen personas became more and more over the top and ridiculous. And you couldn't take any of it serious.
Look, Nicolas Cage shits intense. But only when he's camping.
That's basically Jared Leto. But what's funny is I think back to Fight Club. And, his character in Fight Club is a side character, But he's got that face.
Look,
and then he beats his ass almost to death, and it's all like, because of his face and that, it's like, I wished I could have done that.
After I watched Morbius, I immediately turned on YouTube, looked up that scene from Fight Club, and watched it 5 times so I could vicariously live through Ed Norton beating the shit out of his stupid face.
That's great. That's absolutely great.
Jared Leto has a punchable face.
He certainly does.
But speaking of clowns,
that's how I feel about Will Ferrell. Now, I hate Will Ferrell at times, I will say. He has his moments.
Step Brothers.
So it's not a full hate for Will Ferrell. It's a mostly hate for Will Ferrell. And what I've come to the realization over the years is that if he is top billing or close to that, which means he's in a lot of that movie, I'm not watching that movie because it's going to annoy the shit out of me. But if you give him a bit part where he's only in it for 5 minutes or less, he's usually pretty funny because it's, he busts through the room, he acts a damn fool, makes a lot of noise and a big-ass mess, and he leaves. And ha, 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 that's funny. But when you do that for the entirety of a movie, it gets on my nerves, and I don't like it, and I don't like Will Ferrell.
I think you just summed up the reason why Kenan Thompson has stayed on Saturday Night Live for so long. It's not an offense. Some actors are really good with punchy jokes for 3 to 4 to 5 minutes at a time, like on SNL.
Yeah.
Okay? Will Ferrell was at home on SNL.
Yep.
But when he tries to branch out and be in 2 to 3 hour movies, people don't have time for that shit.
Nope.
Okay? Kenan Thompson made one movie. He realized it was a mistake, and he ran back to SNL as fast as he could. I love Kenan Thompson.
Yeah, I have too.
But I don't want to see him in a 2 hour movie.
There is an exception. One movie I would say that where he is the top bill that I do not hate, and that's Stranger Than Fiction.
Solid movie.
A surprisingly good movie, and I watched that thinking I was going to hate it because Will Ferrell was in it. but I still give a lot of movies a chance that I probably shouldn't. But was pleasantly surprised by that movie because he wasn't playing the typical Will Ferrell role, that he plays in everything else. He wasn't Ricky Bobby, I'm sorry for y'all out there, but I hate Talladega Nights.
So you want to see Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back Will Ferrell.
So yeah.
You don't want to watch Anchorman.
What is it? Federal Wildlife Marshal Will and Holly.
Yeah.
That shit is hilarious.
But Kevin Smith knows what to do with actors.
Well, and it's like, hey, and honestly, he was on screen a little too much in that. But for the most part, he was pretty funny because he was not anywhere near the main character.
Well, the thing about that, though, is you have to look and see who Will Ferrell was sharing the screen with when he was on camera.
Yep.
When you're standing next to Judd Nelson, when you're standing next to Jon Stewart, when you're standing next to Jason Mewes, these guys are going to carry the scene. Will Ferrell's going to react. Maybe come up with 2 or 3 little improv lines that are really funny that they keep in the movie.
And then jump cut to the next scene with something else going on somewhere else that he's not in.
Like a Saturday Night Live.
Exactly. A lot of people have come from Saturday Night Live over the years and made it, and a lot haven't. Not to go into total hate mode, but just some of those people from Saturday Night Live that I loved at one time, can't stand them now. Good example of that's Mike Myers.
Dana Carvey.
I mean, both halves of Wayne's World, man. But Mike Myers is obviously a lot bigger than Dana Carvey. My thing with Mike Myers is like, yeah, in the bits on Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers was pretty funny. But like, Mike Myers outside of that's done just a bunch of stupid over-the-top shit.
So who would be your biggest disappointment that made the transition from SNL to the big screen?
Some of the best ones off of there are dead. A la Chris Farley and Phil Hartman.
Well, living or dead. Because clearly you wouldn't say Phil Hartman nor Chris Farley were disappointments for the movies that they made, whether they're with us now or not.
All right, this is going to be an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
If Chris Farley hadn't died, we would look at him much differently now, and we would not have as much respect for him. He did that jolly fat guy routine a handful of times in everything he did, but eventually that shit gets tired, and we would not look at Chris Farley the same if he was still alive.
I can't argue that. When you see somebody do the same thing over and over again, it does get stale.
Another one I guess I could say now is a bit of a disappointment is Adam Sandler.
Right.
Because I was a huge Adam Sandler fan in the 90s.
Oh, I think a lot of people were.
Happy Gilmore. I've seen it a million times.
The Wedding Singer was great.
And Billy Madison, it's stupid, but, it was good fun. But I even look back on those movies now, and it's a grown man acting like a fucking toddler.
Absolutely.
And I realized that it's not funny. It's stupid and sad and cringy.
At the time Adam Sandler was popular, I think humor was a little bit more crass and a little bit more juvenile than it is today. Now,
Agreed.
I'm not saying all humor today is smart, but I think a lot of the popular humor today is smart.
I think the quality of writing in TV and movies these days is leaps and bounds above what it was even as recently as 15, 20 years ago. And that's no knock on necessarily the writers of the time, but I think majority of it is the internet has made people as a whole smarter. Just the infinite knowledge at your fingertips.
Just the access to the information.
I believe has made the human race as a whole smarter.
Because I thought you were going a different way with it. I think the internet allowing creators to put their material out there, it challenges writers and challenges...
Shout out Triflemen.
Absolutely. It challenges producers and directors and writers and actors to come up with more quality content. Because I got to be honest with you, in the past 5 years, I've probably laughed harder at TikTok than I have in anything on TV.
Well, and to touch on what you were getting at with Matt Stone and Trey Parker, also having infinite amount of creators out there, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You have many more avenues for famous creators to steal from.
there isn't any possible way that writers, directors, producers, actors, anybody famous today aren't researching low-scale channels, people that don't get a lot of fame, but they're funny. I've seen a lot of high-quality humor on the internet, and then maybe a month or two down the road, I hear a stand-up comedian redress the bit, do the exact same thing.
We personally saw a comedian a few months ago, and his whole bit was about stuff he had saw while scrolling Facebook before he got on stage.
Oh, yeah. No, his whole routine was things that we read about that day on the internet.
And it honestly wasn't very funny either.
It wasn't funny when I read it on the internet.
He did a bad job of rehashing it.
He did. I thought you were talking about MC Chris, talking about people you hate. Yet again, that's another person that I actually liked MC Chris till I saw him live.
Sorry, Chris. You've been around a long time, buddy, but that show recently, a dumpster fire. And you might want to rethink the rest of your life.
Look, it's none of my business, but I'm going to give you some sound advice, my friend. Stay at home with your kid. Be a good father for him. The life on the road is over. You had that, and it was cool, but you don't have that anymore. Now you got to be responsible. It's grown-up time.
That's Wes.
And he's Corey, and we're the Triflemen.